Thank you, everyone, for coming out. It is my utter pleasure to be sharing the stage with Warren Spector this evening, who has been a huge influence on me personally, and I'm only slightly nervous about it. So I wanted to start with showing that, because one of the things you can't tell from that trailer is that Epic Mickey 2 is a musical. And I wanted to start with that question.
Oh, great.
What were you thinking when you decided to make it a musical?
It's funny. I expected everyone at Disney just to go, "Oh yeah, of course." I mean, we're Disney, right? Every classic Disney film has songs in it, right? I mean, from Snow White to Tangled, right? But when I talked to many folks there, they actually did respond the way I expected, right? But when you talk to the interactive folks, you see the fear in their eyes. Oh my God, gamers are never going to accept songs. So I have to admit, I've kind of taken a step back from my original grandiose plan, so this is just a test. If you guys want the most amazing interactive musical comedy games, just like send your cards and letters to Disney and tell them how much you love Disney Epic Mickey 2 and the musical elements in it, because I know how to do the most amazing music game of all time. But this time, what we're doing, if you don't like musicals, you don't like songs, you can skip past them. But realistically, I mean, I just love musicals. I mean, my mom dragged me to musicals on Broadway when I was growing up, and I've loved them since I was a little kid. And no one was ever foolish enough to let me do a musical game until now.
And I was trying to think of games that were close, and the only one I could come up with was Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Well, there's Conker's Bad Fur Day. That had maybe we shouldn't make that comparison. But, there was that, and Portal 2 has some musical elements. And,
that's true.
But we're going a little bit further this time, and like I said, if you guys like it, next time I'm going crazy. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. What am I talking about? I don't care if you like it or not.
How far do you think you would have to get before, like Epic Mickey 5, Epic Mickey 6?
I'm not waiting that long.
Like on the topic of musicals, like one of my favorite quotes about game development is Brenda Braithwaite when she compared games to opera and said they're probably closer. Is that part of your thinking with making it a musical?
No, honestly, my thinking of making Disney Epic Mickey 2 a musical is just, the whole point of the Epic Mickey games, in a sense, is to honor 80 years of Disney's creative history. Whether you want to admit it or not, I know you guys are too cool for school and you don't want to admit that you like Mickey Mouse, but we all have this little Mickey-shaped hole in our hearts, and I thought it was time for a game to sort of fill that and acknowledge the ways in which Disney, the man and the company he created, touched all of us over the years. And if you're going to do that, you really have to, wish upon a star or be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or something. You have to have songs to really do Disney justice. So it's not that I was thinking it was operatic in any way at all, no.
And was it a response to other games that were out there? Because you have spoken previously about how you sometimes make games as a response to other games.
No, I always make games in response to other games. One of the things that's frustrating to me is I'm not kind of a blank slate designer. I've written about this and spoken about it a bit, but I look at what Tim does. He'll be talking tomorrow night, I guess, and I look at what Will Wright does and Genova Chen. I mean, there's some of the people who I think are just brilliant designers, and I'm not like that. What I do is I take a little bit of Thief and a little bit of Neverwinter Nights and a little bit of Mario and mash them together, see what I come up with, and hope I come up with something new by combining things that don't belong together. That's one thing, and the other thing that I do is I play a lot of games. I don't play. By the way, if you want to get into the game business, understand you're going to play a lot less than you do when it's just your passion. But I play a couple of hours of every game that comes out, pretty much. I mean, that's as close as I can get anyway. And finish very few. I play until I feel like I've learned everything I can from a game, or I just get so frustrated I want to throw my keyboard or controller across the room. And I find myself saying, wow, like, why did they do that? I can do better. Or why didn't they do this other thing? And so that frustration is kind of the thing that drives me to make a particular game. Deus Ex came out of frustration with Thief, a game I absolutely adore and which I worked on. Epic Mickey came out of frustration with games I also love, the Mario games and the Zelda games, because I looked at those two genres. I mean, the platform game and the adventure game, and I saw amazing graphics that had changed dramatically over 20 years. And I heard, the sounds that had come so far, and from a design standpoint, I thought there hadn't been any progress at all. So how can you keep making the same kinds of games over and over and over again? So I wanted to say, how can I take this sort of choice and consequence thing that's so important to me, and bring that to this mashup of platforming and action adventure? And what's going to happen? It's just about what happens if you mix all these chemicals together and does your house blow up, right? I mean, that's what I did when I was a kid with my chemistry set, and that's what I'm doing with games now.
And with that sort of that mixing bowl, how did you find that with Disney? If you're sort of taking all of these things, how responsive were they?
Disney. It's interesting. I think there are two things that surprised me about Epic Mickey, or about people's responses to the fact that I was working on that. One is I think everybody thinks I should be scared that I'm messing with Mickey Mouse. It's like you should be scared about that because he's the most recognizable icon on planet Earth, right? You'll never meet anyone who doesn't know this character and have a relationship with him, right? But it's just kind of cool. I mean, why would I be scared? And everybody, I think, expects me to be like under the thumb of the corporation and stuff. But it really, they came to me and asked me to make this game, and they said, we want you to make your game, not ours. And then the most amazing thing was they said, I'm sitting in a room full of Disney execs, and trying to be cool. Like, yeah, Mickey Mouse, who cares? It's like, and really, like I'm vibrating. Like I'm like the Flash. If you read that comic book, I could vibrate through the wall. I'm at hypersonic speed. But they said, no, we have an idea. Is it okay if we pitch you our idea? And I'm sitting there going, this is Disney. This is like the creative powerhouse of the 20th century. Of course you could pitch me your idea. So they were really open. I mean, they gave me a lot of rope, and I always explain to publishers I work with that I make the game. I mean, it's a mantra now. I make the games I want to make. I make them the way I want them. I want to make them, and if you're not interested in that, we'll part ways now and we'll stay friends.
So I kind of want to come at this obliquely. What games are you playing at the moment, and kind of how will that sort of manifest?
At the moment, I am playing Disney Epic Mickey 2, The Power of Two.
That game sounds great. Tell us more about it.
It's phenomenal. I'm doing an awful lot of Disney Epic Mickey, Power of Illusion on the 3DS as well. No, sadly, most of my game playing right now is on airplanes and in cabs and cars and stuff. So there's an awful lot of. Hey, I'll plug a friend's game. I mean, it's Drop 7 on the iPhone. Oh my God, you don't even want to know how many games of Drop 7 I have played. I get out my 3DS every once in a while. I've been playing the Rayman game on the Vita.
Cool.
Mario Kart 7 is still a favorite for me.
So moving a little sideways, one of the themes that I've sort of observed in the work is this idea of characters who are sort of living on the surface of worlds that end up being much deeper than they are. Is that a conscious thing? Is that like a personal thing that you're working through, or is it just a thing that you've uncovered?
Well, it's funny. I think you're working through. We were talking before all of you fine folks walked in. There have been a couple of people who've written, master's theses about the games that I've worked on, which freaks me out, by the way. And one of them sent me a copy, and it basically dawned on me that my entire career has been one long therapy session. No, it's like this guy pointed out a couple of things that I do know. Almost every game I've worked on has an alternate reality. It has, a cyberspace or. I'm sorry, Disney, but when you eat the mushrooms in Underworld, fun things happen, And every game, there's a dream state in Wings of Glory, a game that no one remembers. But anyway, every game has a dream state or an alternate reality, which I knew that I've done very consciously. And every game has a basketball court where you can actually shoot a basket. See if you can find them all, collect them all. And I make my teams put the basketball court in. I always tell them, don't tell me where it is, though, because I want the fun. Hey, I want the fun of finding it, too. And I found one in Disney Epic Mickey too, but I've been told there are others now, so I have to find the secrets too. That's the only Easter egg in the game, by the way, all you Disney folks are. Sorry, I promise I'll stop pointing at you soon. No, but the other thing he pointed out was that every game I've worked on is built around a dysfunctional family. And I have no idea where that comes from, because I had a very happy childhood and loving parents and everything. But apparently, I have a problem with families that I am working through my work. But that was a long non-answer to your question. The actual answer. No, I'm a huge believer in the idea that games can be as compelling as any medium in terms of our ability to tell stories. We tell them differently, and we tell different kinds of stories, and I'm happy to talk about that if you want. But I think a story can't just be save the world from alien invasion. It can't just be, rescue the princess. If you do that, there's no point. It's stupid. So I think a game story, like any other medium's stories, has to have subtext, it has to have a theme, it has to have something you're exploring that you kind of hope no one ever notices consciously, but it's there, and when they get done, they realize there was something going on there. I learned something. That was interesting. I don't even know why, especially when you're making games now that are as appealing to 9-year-olds as they are to 90-year-olds. You want players to come away learning something about themselves and about the world. And so I think it's important that there be this underlying thematic material and worlds that are deeper than they appear to be, and that you discover that depth. Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I do that on purpose.
And is it something the same for you as a creator? Are you uncovering things about yourself as you make these games as well, and sort of interact with your teams and your players? Yeah,
I learn how inadequate I am on every game I work on. It's unbelievable. No, seriously. One of the critical things for me is I'm bored very easily. And so I always have to make sure that there's at least one thing I just have no idea how to do in every game I work on. There's got to be one thing that no one in the world's ever seen before, and it's because I need that possibility of failure. It's not just me. I think teams need that. Mm-hmm. I will leave it to others to execute well against well understood problems. What could possibly be more boring than that, and so making a game is constantly learning about yourself. When I started, it was me and a keyboard and a screen. That was it. And then when I started working at Origin, the first team I worked on was I think it was 10 people. And then I grew to make games that had 50 people, and then 150. Just learning how to communicate a coherent message to that many people and have them work together to create something coherent for the people who are going to experience that in the real world. That's the big lesson. How are you creative in a group context, right? That's I think the big thing for me anyway.
And you're still solving those problems, I assume, because the teams are just going to keep getting bigger.
Oh my God! I always say, it's not just me. You're going to make new mistakes on every game, right? You try not to make the ones you made last time. But nobody asked me about the camera in Disney Epic Mickey. Okay.
So tell us about the camera in Epic Mickey.
No, you want to make new mistakes with every game, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's people are so afraid of failure. Even people on my team, I constantly have to remind everybody, what's the cost of failure when you're a game developer? Okay, now I don't want to be too flip about this, because there are people with mortgages and families and jobs are on the line. But at the end of the day, we're not curing cancer here. We're providing entertainment and maybe some enlightenment for people, but. So you fail. Oh my gosh, I lost a multi-billion-dollar company some money. Whatever.
I might be the one that says it's okay, Disney, for that one.
Well, but look, when I was an independent, I was the thing that when I left Ion Storm and IDOS to do Junction Point as an independent startup. It was pretty funny. I left with the idea. I had a very specific thing I wanted to do, and it was going to change the world, and it was going to be amazing. And about 3 weeks after I started Junction Point, I realized, I had already fallen into how do I make the mortgage next month? How do I make the rent? How do I make payroll? Oh my God, I've just got to survive. I got to survive. But even there, the cost of failure was, okay, I'll go get a job. I'll open a bookstore or something, or whatever.
Like a proper job.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody in this room, if you're here, you've probably read at least one interview with me, which means you've heard me say, fail gloriously, right? I mean, your entire life. I mean, I'm probably the oldest person still making games, right? And at the end of the day, I'm working on, I promised myself I was going to count so I could give an actual answer. It's either 22 or 23 games that I've worked on now. So in 30 years, I've made 22, let's call it 23 things, give myself the benefit of the doubt. An entire life summed up in 20-something things. Let's call it 30 things by the time I shuffle off this mortal coil. Damn, they better all have a chance of being great. I would rather fail at something that's really cool. It's not like I'm building widgets every day. My life is my work, and I've got 30 chances to get it right.
That's not a big number.
No, it's not. It's not. But when you take, I don't make 6-month games. I don't make 3-month games. My games take. The other thing I told Disney, and I've told every publisher I've ever worked with, the last 6-7 games I made took between 32 and 36 months to make. If I tell you I'm going to make a game in 24 months, I'm probably lying. Just look at history, right? So. Yeah, my games take a long time to make. I like it that way. I like making games the way I make them, and you don't get to make many in your life. So at least do something that has a chance of really scaring you to death.
I want to come back to the fact that it has been a long time, like 30 years in the industry, and how things have changed. But I also want to touch on the beginning and the end of projects, and how, like, the idea that you're bored easily. Is it because the middle is basically that there are people just solving problems day in, day out?
It's not so much that I had never thought about it that way. I'll think about that and have a good answer for you in about a week. But no, really, for me, it's just that there's this period where you're just trying to figure out what the heck you're doing. It's this pure magical, like completely open-ended, what are we going to do sort of thing. And then in the concept phase, and then in pre-production, you're kind of taking. Everybody at the office calls me the kitchen sink designer because I start out like let's just throw everything in there, like just take a bunch of clay and throw it all together, and then gradually in pre-production you start carving it away. It's like building a sculpture, right? If I say right one more time, somebody come up on stage and kick me, okay? It's my verbal tick for the night.
Nobody come up on stage and kick him.
Yeah, no. Actually, good point. Thank you. But you just sort of carve away all the things that don't look like the game you want to make. And at the end of pre-production, in a weird sort of way, I kind of feel like I've already made the game, and everything from there is downhill. It's all disappointment, and we can't do that, and and fiddly little details and zeros and ones and pixels, and I'm sorry guys, production is boring, and so what I've always done is I have gone out and surrounded myself with people who live for that. They live to solve those problems, which really is what's going on. And they live to realize that vision that you have in concept and pre-production. And there are people who thrive on that. But I think if you're going to succeed at anything, you better know yourself. And I'm just not that guy, So find people who are, find people who buy into the vision, communicate that vision clearly, get them all going in the same direction, and then it's like, I don't know if this metaphor will mean anything down here, but in the United States, in Texas especially, I say, I'm just the guy who's sitting up on top of the station, the covered wagon, and I've got a team of horses in front of me, and they've made the run from Austin, Texas to Amarillo 1,000 times. They know the way. I can sit up there with the reins loose in my hand. I'm starting to use my Texas accent now, and they know the way. They know where they're going, and the only time I have to pull on the reins is if they get off track a little bit, or if the Indians attack, whatever. So they know where they're going. All I have to do is sort of nudge them every once in a while. Yep. And then you get to the point where at the end of production, the game is fully playable, start to finish, and absolutely sucks. It's like all these grand dreams you had, nothing works, everything's horrible, it's no fun. By the way, every single game I have worked on, every single one has almost gotten killed months before it became System Shock or Deus Ex or Disney Epic Mickey, whatever. Publishers, if you want to have some fun, make games the way I do. And spend like millions of dollars in 2 years and get to something that absolutely sucks. Looks bad, plays bad, and then what you do? Then the fun starts. Then I'm back there, except I'm in Australia right now instead of doing the fun stuff. But this is fun too. But then you take this thing that it's sort of like what you imagined at the beginning and not really, and hundreds of people have now touched it and made it sort of theirs and come up with ideas that are better than yours and some that are worse, and then you make it fun. You sit there and you play it obsessively, and you watch other people play it, and you sit in QA and watch them play it, and you browbeat your designers and change it, move that 6 feet over, change that from blue to red, and you make this thing beautiful. That's cool. Shutting down projects that is a ton of fun. It is. No, I mean it. It's magic. There's that boring bit in the middle. If I could just get rid of that and go right from fun to fun, I'd be the happiest guy in the world.
I think we all would.
Yeah.
Just straight fun all the way.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Deus Ex because it is the greatest PC game ever made in the history of the world. Except for the first level.
Oh, come on. That first level was magical. Are you kidding me?
So the reason I want to talk about that is because for a very long time I maintained that the first level was not enjoyable. But then I played the new Human Revolution, and I realized that what that game was doing is something that a lot of contemporary AAA games do, which is here's how you do everything in the Deus Ex world. Here's how you talk to someone. Here's how you walk. And it reframed that first level for me. And basically what that first level of the original Deus Ex is saying is, here's the game. If you can cope with this, you will be okay. And it's incredibly provocative in a really interesting way. And so I wanted to ask you, what's the deal with the first level? How did it end up that way? Was that deliberate?
Well, we didn't deliberately, make an obtuse level that didn't teach you anything about how to play the game. No, that was not done on purpose. That first level, we spent a lot of time on that first level, and all credit to Harvey Smith, who was the lead designer on Deus Ex. He was the guy who built the first level, and we worked on it together very closely. I mean, Harvey and Chris Norden, who was the lead programmer, and Jay Lee, who was the art director, and Sheldon Picotti, who was the lead writer. That was the sort of core of the team that made that game what it is. And Harvey took on the responsibility of building that first level, where we knew we had to teach people 100 things that they had never seen or done in a game before. Or they'd seen them in isolation, but never combined the way we did. It's that mashup thing. That's what I do. I take these things that don't belong together. And you got chocolate in my peanut butter. That's exactly what all these games are. And we built out. I mean, I knew we wanted to build the Statue of Liberty. I wanted to start in a place that everybody understood, that everybody knew about, that everybody at least in North America, had an emotional connection with, and then we needed to teach them that this was a game where you get to decide how to play. It's up to you. What does it feel like? It's up to you. And no game at that point had ever done that. At least that I knew of. So what we really tried to do was just communicate to the player, okay, we get you, we let you walk like 10 feet, and your brother intercepts you to give you a little bit of backstory, and to tell you, you've got to get into the statue, and there are some terrorists in there, take them out. And in most games, they tell you exactly how to take them out. I mean, in most games, it's as stupid as, I've said this before, but it's most games are so stupid. It's either, it's like, that's a blue door and it's locked. I bet there's a blue key somewhere, and I bet it's a blue monster that has it, or there's a locked door. And I mean, this is a real puzzle from a game. I was furious when I saw this. But there was a game, which I will not name, many years ago, where there was a blocked door, and there were shelves next to the door, and you had to arrange different colored cans on the shelf to open the door.
That's how locks work. And
Yeah,
so.
you know, and what I wanted, I mean, Deus Ex was supposed to be the real world role playing game. That was the first one liner I thought of when I came up with that, and we needed to show players you can fight, you can sneak, you can talk, you can do all this stuff, you know. And what happened was we originally just had it. You go up there and there's the statue and go, you know. And by the way, Harvey, if you talk to Harvey, he will tell you that I was a real son of a gun on that part, because I made him. I actually got blueprints of the Statue of Liberty. I made him build it to the blueprints. Damn it, he was very frustrated. But anyway, but what happened? We got to the point where we saw this completely clear choice point, right? If you remember the way it works, you go up the dock. And then you go. There's UNATCO headquarters over on one side, and then there's the statue over on the other. And so we just assumed everybody would go to the bright shiny thing, which is the statue. And you go right, and we put a little piece of cover down there, like right when you go through the gateway that leads to what is the real map. And over there, over in front of the statue, there's a really bright light and a really badass looking robot that, you know, and then a bunch of guys with guns on really short patrols, you know, looking dangerous. And then, so that's what you see if you look left. And if you look right, you see like crates. There were more crates in Deus Ex than in any other game in history. I'm so proud of that.
I think the time to create in Deus Ex is like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
so pretty much the first thing you see.
There was a website that did that. We won that contest. I was so proud. I think we had a negative number. Anyway, so you see some crates over here, and then some crates further down, and then some crates over there, and like there are just 2 guards over on that side, and they're on really long, slow patrols, and there are deep shadows everywhere, and you know what we thought was going to happen was players were going to go, oh, big bad robot. Lots of guys with guns, bright lights. If I go over there, I bet I'm going to get in a fight. And over there, dark, lots of cover, only 2 guys, long patrols. I bet I could sneak my way past there. And what happened was very different. We saw, I coined a phrase for it, paralyzed by choice. I saw hardcore gamers just get to that cover spot where we showed you the choice, and they didn't get it. I mean, we spent months. Harvey spent months tuning that. I mean, I'm sorry you didn't feel like you learned anything there, but man, I mean, that was the spot where we taught you what Deus Ex was about.
No, and I think that like that, I had that paralysis. I think I had that sense of, there's too much for me to do so early, and but once I'd completed it, I had a sense that this is the game I want to play.
Think about what you just said though, and it's absolutely true. Gamers paralyzed by choice. We are the medium of interactive entertainment, and we had spent at that point. That was what we started working on that in 1997. So 25 years of training players not to think. You know, that's what games had done. That was my frustration. Games had taught people not to interact. You know, the only thing you were supposed to think about was read the mind of the designer. How did the designer want you to get past this? And there's great joy in that. I mean, I certainly to this day play games where all you're doing is trying to figure out what the designer wanted you to do. And the joy of that is I'm smarter than Shigeru Miyamoto, which, by the way, I'm not. Or I'm smarter than the designer. I outsmarted that guy. It's a competition. And I didn't want to have a competition. I wanted to have a conversation. I wanted players to be the ones who were expressing their creativity, not me. And we had to teach players, it's okay to make a choice. It's just a game. Nothing really dies, you know? Failure, oh my God, restart. But, the other thing about that first level that I think your mileage may vary. I thought we ended up tuning that first level pretty well to teach you what Deus Ex was all about.
I think in retrospect, I totally agree. And
well, you don't have to, by the way.
No,
you could say that level sucked, and that's fine. But there was one problem that we never actually solved. The way I expected people to play Deus Ex was, they'd play and they'd just sort of play the way they wanted to play. The whole idea was you make your own fun. If you think it's fun to shoot stuff, start shooting, and alarms are going to go off, and more guards are going to show. I mean, it was sort of a there were a lot of positive feedback loops that we built into the game. So you start shooting, you make noise, that sets off, guards are attracted to the noise. If you like fighting, just go set off all the alarms, and more bad guys will come and you can kill them, But if you don't like that, don't shoot stuff, And the game becomes a stealth game because of how you're playing. The whole game, I mean, the enemy spawners were tuned to your play style. And what I expected to have happen was people would just sort of wander through the game, creating the fun they wanted minute to minute. And what happened was, from that very first choice point that I just described, what people did was they would get to the obvious choice points that in this kind of game, you have to show players there is a choice here, that's a really important point, which I want to come back. Remind me to come back to pacing. But they would get to that choice point and they would save, and then they would try the fighty path. And then they would load their save game, and they would try the stealthy path. And then they would load up their save game, and they would try a combination of both and see what happened. And I hated that. I hated it. But at the end of the day, I had to say, it's the player's game. Yep. Once they've given you their money, it's about them finding fun. And if that's the way they wanted to play it, that was the way they played it. And we didn't fix it. People liked it. It's the greatest PC game of all time.
It's the greatest PC game of all time. I will come back to pacing, but do you think that, like, the idea of training, do you think and also in contemporary games, do you think we've trained players to try and optimize their experience rather than play a game like yours where they're kind of crafting their own experience through it?
Well, gamers are always going to min-max, right? I mean, that's we are optimizers. I mean, if you take a walk with a game designer, you're going to find that their pathing algorithm is in full effect when they're walking through the streets of a city. No, it's true. It is absolutely true. It is the weirdest. Taking a walk with a game designer, it's a very strange experience. Yeah. Anyway, okay, I've got plenty of stories about that too. But I think you have to expect that of gamers. The interesting thing that's going on now is a lot of people, even at the show, have been asking me, do you think games have gotten too easy? Or are we telling players too much? And there's the gamer part of me actually does feel that way. We're afraid to challenge players as much as we used to. I mean, I went back and tried to play the first Zelda game. Everybody knows the Zelda games are like the best games on the planet, right? And I said right again.
Nobody kick him.
Okay, nobody kick. Yeah, stay. But I played the first Zelda game, and it's like, wow, how did I get through that? But I think we've kind of, as a gamer, I think we've gone too far. But the reality is, I spend more in one day than I spent making my first game. Okay. We have to sell so many more copies of a game just to break even than we used to, that we can't just make a game for gamers anymore. And normal humans haven't had the training that gamers have had. No, when we were blind testing the first Epic Mickey game, the level of consequence for your choices in that game was much higher when we were in production. And then we got to that fun post-production stuff, and I saw, kids and non-gaming adults paralyzed by choice, something I had not seen in gamers since 1999. Because all of you guys, you've all figured it out. I mean, now there's BioShock is out there, and Skyrim is out there, and BioWare's doing Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect, and Peters, who I wish was here, is doing Fable. I mean, it's hard not to find games if you're out looking for them. It's hard not to find games that do the choice and consequence thing now, but that hasn't filtered down to the millions that we have to sell to just to break even. And so we kind of had to dial back a little bit, and I kind of see why people overtrain now, and I kind of see why they maybe games are getting somewhat easier.
I mean, basically you've trained all of us, and now you have to sort of start with these people.
Yeah, well, the nice thing was by the time those normal people played enough of Disney Epic Mickey, even they were going, wow, what I'm doing isn't making as much difference as I hoped it would. And so this time on the new game, we're going to a whole new level. I mean, there's consequentialness, if that's a word, in Disney Epic Mickey 2 that puts Deus Ex to shame. I mean, content is very different, the tone is very different. I'm not denying that, but the consequences are really there. I mean, when you make decisions in Disney Epic Mickey 2, they really matter, and I love that.
I want to actually let's talk about pacing because you did want to come back to that.
Yeah. But okay, so there are two things that I think about obsessively. One, and they're kind of related, but one is pacing and one is emotion in games. And I think you have to be your own harshest critic. It's really important not to fall in love with your own work. And so I try very hard to be, I mean, there's nothing any of you could say that would hurt my feelings about anything I've ever worked on, because I hate everything I've ever worked on, right? I said it again, damn. But the two biggest problems that I see in the games that I've worked on over the years are pacing and emotion. And what I mean by that is to make a game that's about players deciding what to do. You have to get people to that choice point, and then give them a moment to sort of look around and go, okay, I understand the situation. I understand the choice that I'm being given here. What do I want to do about it? And somebody just yawned over there. You see, that's you need to give them that moment to make a plan, and then execute on it and see what happens. See the consequences of their attempt to execute on their plan in your situation. That's the dynamic of the games I've worked on. And what that means is the pacing of all of my games, every one of them, is by design. It's like this: go, think, go, 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 think, go, 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 think. And it's this really sort of staccato sort of, you get into it and then you stop, and you get into it, you stop. But when you play a Valve game or a Nintendo game, it's this, you get into this amazing flow state of like go, 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 go. And I envy that. I mean, I don't know how to make the kinds of games I want to make and get people into that flow state, because I'm constantly breaking them out to make them think, right? So that's one. The kinds of games I make determine the pacing of the games and determine the way the narrative unfolds in ways that I'm not completely happy with, but I have no idea how to fix. Okay, which is why you keep making them. And then the emotional thing, which you didn't ask about, but I'll talk about it anyway.
That would be great.
I love the games I've made mostly. I mean, I hate them and I love them at the same time. But I find they fall short in terms of providing emotional impact. When I think about Deus Ex and System Shock and the Ultima games I worked on and everything I've worked on, I think they're sort of intellectually challenging, and they're sort of cerebral, I guess. I mean, I don't mean that in any bragging sense. I mean, it's just they're games that are designed to make you stop and think, And I don't think I've ever made a game that had a moment that had the emotional impact of hundreds of moments in Half-Life, or hundreds of moments in Tim's games, or hundreds of moments in other people's games. So I kind of feel like I could rule the world if I could just figure out how to combine that sort of intellectual challenge with the emotional. I got to stop doing that. With the emotional content that other people manage to get at, and so I'm constantly trying to do that. And with Disney Epic Mickey, I think we came close. I've gotten more fan mail and more sort of emotional and heartfelt, you changed my life sort of fan mail. Seriously, it's kind of amazing. Disney Epic Mickey, whatever you thought about it, it touched people in a way that nothing I've ever worked on has. And people talk about how they cried and they thought about their families when they got to the end of it, and they fell in love with the characters, and they felt a sense of melancholy about the world, and all that was great. So now if I can just take all that emotional stuff and bring back all the choice and consequence stuff and marry it, maybe I get the win. But I don't feel like I've had that emotional breakthrough yet, which means I need more therapy.
Which means you need to make more games.
Exactly.
And work through your
Exactly.
problems. I was going to touch on the Epic Mickey because there were definitely moments in playing that for me where there was that sort of go think, go think, but there were also moments that I hadn't seen, like the moment where you meet the animatronic Pluto for the first time, and it's kind of sad but awesome because it's a robot Pluto. You know, you can that's cool, but he's lost all his parts, and it's this incredibly. I don't know how you feel about this, but it would be interesting to get your perspective. Like that's the sort of thing that games seem to do very well, is that weird mixture of the choices that you've made, creating an emotional response in the player.
Yeah. Well, the animatronic pals were in there specifically to evoke some responses. I mean, one of the big goals for the game was to sort of reintroduce Oswald to the world and make him a character that you cared about. I wanted to make him a playable character right up front, but I just realized no one knows who he is. Who's going to want to be this little guy, you know? And so I thought we'll introduce him in the first game, and then we'll make him playable in the second. But to make him sort of relatable, I needed to establish that. I mean, he's envious of Mickey. I mean, Mickey stole the life that should have been his. That's what the story's all about. It's the older brother, you know, rejected by his dad. There's that dysfunctional family that I didn't grow up in. You know, but it's older brother rejected by his dad, you know, in favor of younger brother who stole the life that should have been his. That's the sort of underlying theme of the game. And Oswald, all he's doing, I mean, the whole point of this game for him, it's like he's real. Jeez, that's crazy. Is, you know, he
is real.
He is to me. He really is. It's scary. But you know, his whole thing is he's basically saying, Dad, Walt, love me, you know, love me. And what does he do? He builds a world that is made in the image of Walt Disney's fondest dream, you know, Disneyland. And he does the best he can, and he falls short. And he says, you know, we never actually talked about this in the game, but we did establish this in the Digicomics that we released when the game shipped, the first game shipped. He can actually see into the cartoon world, so he can see Mickey's success, you know, and he sees that Mickey has a family. Mickey has, you know, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, Pluto. He's got all those guys, and the Mad Doctor. This is all backstory that we never actually talked about. It's so funny. I mean, you know so much more about your game and your world than you ever put in the game. But the Mad Doctor, who's the master of animatronics, he sort of manipulates Oswald by saying, I can give you a family. And he builds these animatronic versions of Donald, Daisy, Goofy, you know. So Oswald will have a family that loves him and that he loves. And they really these horrible, monstrous, you know, animatronic creatures, you know, with like glowing red eyes and missing limbs. They love him, you know. And so I mean, they were there to establish him as a character you can relate to, and to certainly introduce some emotion into the game. Whether it worked or not, I don't know. But that was what was going on when we came up with that.
It's totally emotional. I think you've achieved that.
Well, thanks.
So I want to. We have a few more questions from me, and then we're going to open up to the audience. But I want to touch on the fact that you are an older developer, and you are, like you said yourself, you're one of the few, probably one of the only people your age making games. How does that manifest in the types of games that you're interested in making, and also I know you've been very vocal about what's happening in the industry at the moment and the types of games that are being produced, but do you feel that elder statesman type thing, or do you just sort of keep your head down and go, I'm going to make the things that I want?
Well, I am a stubborn guy at a level that most people don't understand. Actually, I'm thinking about specific people who I will not name right now. They don't know what they're up against. Anyway, but yeah, I make the games I want to make. I mean, I've been the luckiest guy in the game business in that I've literally never been told to make a game. I've never made a game I didn't conceive myself or wasn't presented to me, and then I was able to say, well, I'll give you a specific example. Does anybody remember Crusader No Remorse? Does anybody remember that game at all? I didn't get that game at all. I mean, I was the producer on that thing, and well, no, it's true. I had one of my senior programmers, a guy named Tony Zurvek, came to me and he had an idea for a game, and he spent 2 hours pitching me, and I'm sitting there going, I don't get it, you know. But what I said was, you burn with passion to make that game. And if I say no, you're going to quit and make it somewhere else. That's where great things come from. It comes from someone who believes in something so much that they are willing to, basically die to make it happen. And I said, I'm going to support that. So I've made games that I don't get. I have supported the creation of games I didn't get because someone else convinced me of their passion and their commitment to it. And that's where you're going to get something great. So I'm always going to make the games I want to make. The kinds of games and the kind of content that I'm interested in have changed. There's no question. I mean, you guys will all experience this. I guarantee it as you get older. This is where I turn into an old fart, and everybody at my office hates me. But there are a couple of interesting things. First of all, take advantage of your youth and work really freaking hard, okay? Because it is absolutely true that as you get older, your energy wanes. I am no longer capable. I mean, I'm 56, by the way. I'm hugely proud of it. That I'm still making games, and I'm closer to 60 than I am to 50. But the reality is I can't work 7 days a week and 16-hour days anymore. I'm a 6-day-a-week, 10-ish hour a day guy at most. That's nothing. That is nothing in the game business. And I feel guilty when I leave my team there. But the fact is, I've told those guys, look, I'm physically not capable of doing it anymore. That's one thing that has changed dramatically, and I hate it. Okay, but there it is. And the kinds of things I'm interested in have changed too. And I think a lot of gamers resented that when I went to Disney, and it was really important to me to make games that really could have the kind of broad appeal of a Pixar film. I mean, sitting in a room with John Lasseter, who was one of the founders of Pixar and directed Toy Story and all that. I mean, he's an amazing, amazing creative talent, obviously. And we were talking about target audiences and all that stuff. And he said, don't even think about that, which luckily I don't. So it was easy. But he said, at Pixar we make entertainment for everyone. And it was like a physical thing. It was like I was standing in front of a gale force wind and being pushed back by the force of that idea. How many game developers think that way? We're always thinking about 13 to 17-year-old males or 35 to 42-year-old women or what. It's crazy. And we make games that are about the last space marine standing between the Earth and alien invasion. And I never's a big word. Never's a big word. I am no longer interested in that. I'm no longer interested in being a Russian thug, knocking over grandmas and stealing cars. I'm no longer interested in honestly, even in, wow, you're wearing chainmail and swinging a big sword, I mean, as you get, I want to make games that speak to people in the real world and that reach, lots and lots and lots of people. I mean, anybody any creative person who says, I want to reach the smallest audience possible is a surrealist or a fool, and I'm not that. So the kinds of content that I'm interested in are absolutely different. I mean, I'm really interested in wringing emotion out of games and in empowering. Well, first of all, empowering players to tell their own stories. I mean, that is the most important thing to me. And the other thing that's changed recently in this long non-answer to your question is I'm. It's weird. I'm much more interested now. I don't know. I don't think this is a function of age. I think it's a function of just me. I think it's a personal thing. But I'm much more interested in finding ways to let Harvey Smith make his games. And helping Chase Jones, my design director, or Paul Weaver, my studio director. In helping them, like, you kill me. I mean, it's about the next generation has to come along and destroy guys like me. It's time for them to show me what I'm doing wrong. The way when I started 30 years ago, I was a kid. Sorry to all the 26-year-olds who I've just insulted. But I looked at the guys who came before me, that first generation, and said, I'm going to show those guys what interactivity is all about. They are clueless. They're stuck in the past, and I'm going to show them. I'm going to destroy them. Because I'm also a very competitive, obnoxious person. And And whether I did or not, I honestly that's what I was trying to do. I'm not a great team player. I want to shame those guys. I mean, I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly, but when I was making Deus Ex, I absolutely, in my heart of hearts, wanted to shame the rest of my business. I wanted to shame them for making the games that they were making. I wanted them to never to make a game like that again, like they were making again, where when you shoot somebody, all we do is pat you on the back. It should be a big moment. It should be a choice. You should see the consequences of your actions, and without judging. I never judge. I mean, that's when I talk to my designers. There are a couple of really key things that they have to understand that they think they understand and they don't. They never do. And that is that choices without consequences are a waste of time. There are a lot of games that offer choices, and they're just silly. You're doing a lot of work for nothing. If there aren't consequences that really matter to players, don't bother. Okay, that's one thing. And the other thing is everybody thinks that all of my games have morality systems, and they do not. I mean, guys at my studio ask me, how do we express the morality of the game? It's like we don't. Never judge the player. The morality system is between here in every player's head. It's not you telling players what to think. If you want to tell people what to think, make a movie. If you want to ask questions and say, what do you think, player? Make a game, right? Never judge. There are all sorts of games out there, and I'm not going to name them, but you'll know, that where I call it playing the meter. I'm going to do everything I can to be good or evil, because I'm going to look cool if I'm evil. I'm going to go to the light side or the dark side. And it's like, I honestly, I kind of have contempt for those games. I mean, I love them, enjoy them, make them, I don't care. But, it's if you're telling players or allowing them to exploit your game systems to achieve a specific goal, you're wasting their time. Games can teach you something about yourself. While you're having fun, games can teach you something about yourself and about the world. And if you're not doing that, I think you're kind of wasting your time and mine. I don't even remember what you asked.
I'm kind of glad that we ended up there though, because I completely agree. I think that's, and it does feel like we are at the moment, and especially coming out of E3. My response to a lot of the E3 stuff was, "Wow."
Oh, that's what you asked. That
was where I was. Okay. That was going to be my follow-up question, but. And you have been very kind of vocal about that. And do you think we're sort of on a path to potentially being ghettoized?
I think we're beyond that. Let me clarify. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I came out and I did an interview with. It was really weird because Steve Peterson, the guy who did the interview that started all this stuff, he's an old friend of mine. I met him. He was in the game. He's one of the creators of Hero Games that did Champions. I mean, an amazing role-playing game. And I've known him for forever. And he's now writing for GamesIndustry.biz and did an interview. And I thought we were just having a conversation, and it turned out to be an interview. Okay.
There's 300 people in this room as well.
And I will stand by every word I said, and I'm not at all upset that he printed. I was surprised, but I was not upset. But I do have to clarify. I basically said that the ultra-violence has to stop. He asked me what I thought about E3, and I was pretty appalled by what I saw at E3. But again, though I wish people would stop making stupid games, and I wish everybody made games like I do. It's not realistic, and it's not my place, and I'm really not trying to tell anybody what to like or what to do. That's the first point. The second thing is, I wasn't so upset. I could give a damn about video game violence. I don't believe games cause anything. I've been having that argument I started out as a film critic, right? I mean, I was a serious working on my doctorate, thinking I was going to be a professor, teaching at university. I was already teaching at universities, and I was a humanist. I was always arguing with the social scientists who were talking about how television is going to destroy the youth of America. Oh wait, no, wait. No, it's rock and roll and pinball. Oh no, wait. It's movies. No, wait. It's novels because kids should be out reading about living life, not reading about it. No, wait. It was Shakespeare because who is this coney catcher who thinks he can bombast out a blank verse and is creating lowbrow entertainment for criminals who hang out at the Globe Theater. like whatever medium the adults don't get that the kids like is what's going to be in the cultural crosshairs. I could give a damn about video game violence. It's just I'm not going to curse on this stage. It's just a dumb argument to have. I don't care about video game violence. What bugged me, there were two things that bugged me at E3 this year. Bad taste. Okay, we crossed a line. When you're fetishizing violence, and slow motion blood sprays are not mature content. Okay, a lollipop sucking, sexualized teenage girl with a chainsaw is not mature content. Okay, loving knives slashed across a throat are not mature content, and a woman whose character is defined by rape is not mature content. There is more mature content in Disney Epic Mickey than there is in any of those games. And I'm not saying people, I wish people wouldn't make games like that. I genuinely do. But when I hear whooping and hollering about that, and the gaming press and gamers getting all excited about that, I want to go slither into a corner and die, all right? But not because it's there, because E3 is our one opportunity to talk to the world. I mean, we have Gamescom in Leipzig, but really E3 is it. That's where games, which I think are the most beautiful medium and the medium that is going to dominate this century, we get to talk to the world. And just go down to that exhibit downstairs and look at the varied content down there. There are beautiful non-violent games. There are beautiful violent games. There are stupid violent games. The variety of content in video games now is our greatest strength. If you have an idea, there's a way to reach an audience with that idea. There are games that... Okay, I'm going to stop here. The bottom line is there is such a variety of games being made right now. And we showed the world none of it. E3 was about ultra-violence that is fetishized and Nintendo. And I thought that just did gamers a disservice. It did the medium a disservice, and I am furious. I am furious about that.
And I think on that, I would like to thank Warren Spector for joining us on stage, and please join me.